guest is a Milwaukee native who has built a career in the Hollywood film industry, working on some blockbuster films. Beth D'Amato is my guest to talk about the film Song Sung Blue. But first, welcome to What's on Tap. How are you?
I'm good, Sandy. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into your strong connection to the Song Sung Blue movie and the subjects of that movie, Lightning and
Mhm.
Thunder, what is your job now in the film industry? And what are some, this is your chance to brag. What are some highlights you're proud of since you moved from Milwaukee to work in Hollywood?
Well, thank you so much. When I moved, my dream was to work for Industrial Light and Magic and do visual effects. I wanted to work on Star Wars type movies, and I was hired right before they started working on the prequels for Star Wars. So I was brought in right at the perfect time. I got to work on Star Wars, the prequels, Star Wars, the sequels. I've done Pacific Rim, I've done Star Trek, I've done Mission Impossible, Transformers, you name it, um,
And what is your
and
role on those
Indiana
films?
Jones.
What is your
I
role in making those films happen?
So for the bulk of my career, I have been a digital paint artist, digital paint supervisor. I paint things out of the film that shouldn't be there and reconstruct things that should be there. If an actor's wearing a harness and they're on a wire, I'll not only paint out the wire, paint out the harness, but then reconstruct all their clothing and make it look like it was never like a harness was never there. Like that's just one minor example. I've painted actors' mouths closed because directors don't want them to speak anymore and they don't have another take. But I've since advanced and now I'm an associate visual effects supervisor. So just a couple under the director, basically overseeing all of visual effects for film and television.
What's one of your very favorite projects that you're proud of?
I would say what I'm really proud of was The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. We did the bear sequence and other sequences, but
That's
he was
amazing.
he was wrestling a man in a blue suit, and that man in blue suit crawled all over him. So I had to remove the man, reconstruct his clothing, reconstruct his beard, his face, and make it look like the guy was never there. So then we could then put the bear on him and have it interact with him. So there was one shot that I was painting for almost 2 months. I mean, it was a long shot
I will
or
bet because
long
that sounds,
task, I should say. The shot is
yeah,
over in a minute, but
it sounds so intricate.
it really is. It's very detailed. It's like imagine painting something like a like still photo, like doing photo restoration on an image, but now that image is moving. So it's that same kind of paint, but doing it on moving frames.
Beth, this is a whole other interview. So you're going to have to come
Yeah.
back to What's on Tap so I can talk to you about this skill set and how you learn and just some of the other backstories behind some of Star Wars, Star Trek, and Transformers and all these other
Oh
fun
yeah,
movies.
I could talk till I'm blue in the face on
Oh,
that
well,
for sure.
good. Well,
Speaking of
well,
blue,
oh, what a good segue. What a good segue. So you got to see Song Sung Blue at a Hollywood preview in October. How do
yes,
you
I did.
describe the plot of Song Sung Blue to people, especially your California folks who did not grow up in Milwaukee like you did?
How I describe it, I say that there was a well known in the Midwest uh, singing duo, Lightning and Thunder, who perform as Neil Diamond, as Patsy Cline, performed together, and they brought the city together. They brought families together. They had a wonderful story, wonderful dreams. There's some tragedy that happens. There's some drama that happens. And this movie depicts all of it, the good, the bad, but specifically the heart and the soul of this couple. And it becomes just this heartwarming, inspiring film. That's how I've described it out here to people who have no idea who they are or how I knew them.
So, how are you connected to this film, Song Sung Blue?
My dad was the biggest Neil Diamond fan, like my whole life. Neil Diamond was was the soundtrack of my life because of my dad's interest. And then therefore it became my interest. So I grew up knowing all of the songs. Fast forward till, a little after college. I won't say when.
It's
Um,
the 90s.
no, I can. It's the 90s. I know I'm not that person.
We'll
But
just make it that general decade of the 90s.
yeah. So
We're
my
accomplished.
dad's
Beth, we're accomplished women. We can own it. It's all right.
And I do own it for sure. Yeah. And you do too. You own it and wear it well.
Bless your soul. You do too. All right, so it's the 90s
It's the
and you're
90s. My dad hears about this Neil Diamond act, um, and goes to see them and falls head over heels for him. Thinks it's the most amazing thing, like next to Neil Diamond you can get, right? Like Neil Diamond isn't performing in Milwaukee, but guess what? Lightning and Thunder are. He calls me, he's like, you've got to go, bring your friends. So I did. I went with my mom and dad. I went with my friends. It was right around that time too, where hanging out with your parents became fun. You know, it was no longer like, oh, I'm out with my mom and dad. It was like, I'm going to go meet my mom and dad. My friends went too, and we had a ball. I couldn't believe it. Like I walked in, I saw them at a place called Club Maryland. Do you remember that?
where
It was
was
like a,
that? It
oh
was a
gosh,
dance club. I remember it was a dance. I remember the name. It wasn't
and dinner. It was like this.
downtown.
It was like a restaurant during the week and like a dance club like on the weekends. It was
Yeah.
wild.
Okay. I remember the name Club Maryland. Yeah.
So we would go there, have dinner, and they would perform. And I remember the first time I walked in, I was like, what am I getting into? And then they started to sing, and I'm like, oh, I'm in. I'm like, I'm really in. So fast forward again, my dad went to see them a million times and ended up becoming good friends with them and had suggestions for them, had big dreams for them that they weren't even dreaming for themselves. And he basically became their manager. And then he brought in his best friend to be his co-manager. So for many, many years, my dad was helping them get other gigs and helping them improve their show. And I mean, not that they needed improvement, but, giving them tips, stage presence, or, move here or change the lighting there. I mean, my dad did all of that with them and for them just out of pure love and friendship. And now there was a documentary that was made. My dad was in the documentary. The film is based on that documentary, and Jim Belushi is playing my father in the film.
And how does that feel to be so close to this subject matter, knowing Lightning and Thunder personally, knowing your dad's love for them as friends and being the wind beneath their wings and just, being so encouraging, and now seeing Jim Belushi in the role of your dad? I would think that's really surreal. What are some of the feelings you feel when you saw the movie?
Surreal is the best word. And what makes it even more surreal is I never even knew the film was being made until a friend from home texted me here in San Francisco. I was at a concert, I'm at a venue, and my phone was like, hey, is Jim Belushi going to play your dad? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this person was like, hey, they're making a film about lightning and thunder, and no cast, nobody had a character name yet. They just had a few people listed as cast, and I saw that Jim Belushi was listed, and I was like, I'm like, I don't think you can make a movie about them and not have my dad. And I'm like, I get like, so I did like a few different searches and discovered, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real. Like this movie is being made, but I still didn't know that Jim Belushi, it wasn't for quite a while that I didn't know who was going to play my dad. And then when I found out that it was Jim Belushi, I'm like, well, that's absolutely perfect. My dad had a sense of humor. He was a serious guy when he needed to be, but just could be goofball, fun, sweet, like all of those things wrapped up into one. So I was like, this couldn't be more perfect. But then it was just surreal to know that someone in my family was going to be depicted in the film. And then you nailed it with my dad's hopes and dreams and visions for Lightning and Thunder. It started to get beyond surreal and just emotional. I'm like, he wanted nothing but success for them. He was the reason they had gigs in Chicago. He had dreams that he would take them to Vegas and not be like the headliner at Caesars, but maybe like headline the casino stage outside the main stage, like, and just have a regular gig. He was like, you guys could totally do that. It would be perfect for you. And he was on the path to try to get them there.
It
So
is
he had all these.
I would say it's entirely imaginable to have seen them as one of those residencies in a hotel in Vegas. I can completely see that, whether it was on
Exactly.
the strip or whether it was in downtown. I can completely see that as a regular gig for Lightning and
Whenever
Thunder
I
in the
saw them in
90s.
Milwaukee, I felt like they were bigger than where they were playing, which was, a restaurant, right? Or a small venue. And I'm like, oh, yeah, they could definitely take on something bigger. And that's what he wanted for them. So, he just wanted them to be known. He wanted them to have success. So then we go see this film, and, my dad's already passed, but it was so emotional because while it wasn't the exact like end goal that my dad had for them, the fact that this movie's being made, I'm like, I'm seeing this in Hollywood. People are going to know who Lightning and Thunder are when they see this movie. And it warmed my heart. So when the credits rolled, I even spoke to my dad. I'm like, you did it. I'm like, you helped make this movie happen. And I know it's about other people. It's not about my dad. It's about Lightning and Thunder. But in my heart, I'm like, you helped make it happen. So I just congratulated my dad when the credits rolled.
That makes my heart happy. That's Tom
Yeah.
D'Amato is definitely part of this. And I have to think, especially my dad's gone 10 years now. So any way I can connect with him. I usually talk to my
Yeah.
dad in the car, but so that's where I just have to think it was even more emotional. Obviously, Jim Belushi isn't your dad and maybe doesn't have all the essence. I mean, is there anything that Jim Belushi maybe saw in the documentary that captured the essence of your dad, or is this just totally Jim Belushi doing a cool character?
I spoke to him at the after party. I got to tell him who I was, which was really fun and surreal. um, but he did research. So, sidebar or side note, my dad was a Kmart manager my whole life. And when he retired, he really, really dove into helping Lightning and Thunder. But I mean, Kmart isn't a part of this at all. And I told Jim Belushi who I am. Me and my sister are standing there. I'm like, oh yeah, we're Tom D'Amato's daughters. And he just goes, what? And then he looks at us, he goes, Kmart, right? And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I didn't expect that right away. And I looked at him, I'm like, you? And he's like, yeah, I did my research. And he goes, wait, he goes, let me get this. He goes, big heart, big sense of humor. He's like total jokester. He goes, but he loved this guy, and he meant Lightning. He goes, he loved this guy like a brother. I'm like, we just both teared up. We're like, absolutely. I'm like, you were talking to the right people and looking up the right research. So he said, yeah, that was the biggest thing he took away. He was like, Tom had a big heart, a big sense of humor, and just wanted great things for them. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, he was their friend first.
In my research, Craig Brewer, when he did the screenplay based on the documentary and with the input of Claire Sardina, Thunder,
Hmm.
and her
Hmm.
children, Rachel and Dana,
Yep.
he didn't have the main characters, actors in mind. But the one person that Craig Brewer did have in mind for this Song Sung Blue film was Jim Belushi.
Are you serious?
I really think I was like I hesitate to pause our conversation, but I have this whole press kit packet, and I think that was da 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 da. I say if I could find it
I
quickly.
talked to Craig too, and I never heard that part. That I mean, I never asked how he came up with Jim or anything, but that is fantastic.
The casting. There's Kate Hudson. Here we go. Here's the quote. Brewer says, quote, when I wrote the script, I didn't have Hugh Jackman in my head. I didn't have Kate Hudson, but I had Jim Belushi in mind for Tom D'Amato. I thought no matter what, Jim is going to play this guy.
You're getting me all emotional all over again. You know,
I'm I'm
I,
so
I
glad that
wanted
I
to,
could share that with you. I'm an in-depth researcher, so sometimes it's like, did I do too much? So to be able to share that with you makes my
wow.
heart happy.
Oh, that makes my heart happy. That is so incredible. That's so beautiful because one thing that I always felt the documentary is real, it's raw. And one thing I loved about it with what my father said in the film was that you got nothing but love from him. And, I'm saying that, but it comes off in the documentary. Because when the film was being made, the feature film that we are talking about, while that was being made, me and the rest of my family were like, oh, I wonder how they're going to portray my dad. Are they going to play him like some sleazy manager who wants something from them, or are they going to portray it real? And I thought, well, if it's based on the documentary, how could you not do anything but someone sweet? Because that's how he comes off in the documentary. That's how he was. So it's just so sweet that he walked away from that with that connection. I had never heard that. That's amazing.
Oh, good. I'm
Thank you for
glad.
sharing.
My pleasure. And I can understand, I would be concerned if it was my father being part of this because we all know it is not a documentary and Hollywood has to dramatize things. So, what artistic licenses will they take? So, I can certainly
Exactly.
understand that concern. And there are a lot of people that I'm talking to who here in Milwaukee saw Lightning and Thunder and are kind of going, how did they get a story that Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson are going to portray? And the real thrust and the themes that really spoke to Craig Brewer were the true love portion and the unstoppable dreaming. that
Yes.
positivity. So I can say that the film definitely speaks to that. And I think everybody can be proud of that and how this story is told. I was at the hometown premiere screening with the family. Everybody's there and a
Yes.
whole bunch of community members. You heard laughter at some parts where I'm not sure what the joke was. It's like, I know when I watch it again, I'm going to be, I don't know why people laughed at that. There was a
Yeah.
lot of inside, but there was a lot of warmth and a lot of just paying attention. It wasn't a lot of, I guess it could have been like over enthusiasm for anything. And it was just, everybody was wrapped at attention in watching this screening. What are some of your personal memories and interactions with lightning and thunder over the years?
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. One of the first things that comes to mind is something that was in the trailer for the feature. Um, when Claire, I mean, because I knew her too, or I still do. When I first met her, the first time I met her, she came over to my family's table to say hi to my dad. We get introduced, and I start asking her about what draw her to singing, and she talks about Mike, Lightning. And she actually said at our table, she goes, when I heard him sing, I told him, you're not a Neil Diamond impersonator, you're a Neil Diamond interpreter. And that's a huge line in a trailer and in the movie. And I'm like, when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, she said that at our like we weren't the only people she said it to. She said it all the time. But I was like, oh wow. I'm like, this is going to be real. And that was the first time I'm like, oh, I have a memory of that. And there were several throughout the film. Like my when they played with Pearl Jam, spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know yet, but I'm sure all of Milwaukee knows. My dad called me. I was living in my apartment in Wauwatosa. He was like, "Hey, if you can get down to Summerfest, because I played at Marcus Amphitheater." He was like, Lightning and Thunder are going to play a song. He's like, Eddie Vedder invited them. He's like, I can get you backstage. You can meet Eddie Vedder. I was like, I'm on my way.
I'm like, tell me that you went.
I did. I watched the whole show from the wings, and then I got to meet Eddie Vedder afterwards. So you and I should have another show about that.
Well, go
But
ahead. Tell me, what do you remember about meeting Eddie Vedder, and what was your take on Eddie's impression of Lightning and Thunder, and really why he included them in that Pearl Jam show?
that's another good question because I remember asking my dad, how did this even happen? And Lightning and Thunder were playing at Summerfest earlier that day. And Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam were just walking the grounds, listening to the bands. And they popped in on their stage and loved them and happened to be, this is just so random for my dad, but happened to be near him. And he was like, hey, they're pretty good. And my dad's like, yeah. And then, of course, he did the manager thing, like, hey, like, I'm Tom, I'm their manager, And they just started talking. And he was like, yeah, this would be really great. Get like a hometown vibe with our show. He's like, do you think they'd want to play with us? And my dad, like having two daughters, the age we were, he was like, I think they would like to play with you. Yeah. So he helped make that happen. But Eddie just enjoyed their vibe. He thought they were really fun and thought it would be really great to have a hometown connection in the middle of their show.
I
So
love
then
that.
later when I talked to him, he seemed very, very enamored and entertained by them. Like there were moments where he was chuckling and he wasn't laughing at them. He was laughing with them and with my dad and just like enamored with them. It was really sweet.
In the documentary Song Sung Blue that was done in 2008, 2009, at the very end of that, what struck me was the fact that Eddie Vedder sent a guitar to Claire Sardina when Mike passed away.
Yeah.
So that's where it erased any doubt in my mind because my concern was Eddie Vedder being cheeky? Was he kind of somehow poking fun at Lightning and Thunder? I just wasn't solidly convinced that there wasn't some nuance there when it actually happened. But then at
Right.
the end of his life, to see that Eddie handwrites a letter and sends a guitar, because during that performance, Eddie Vedder hands him the guitar in the
Yeah.
documentary and then takes
Yeah.
the guitar back. So that was a really meaningful and special connection in the documentary. We don't see that guitar moment in the film. We don't need it, but
Right.
for you to actually have the story and to have been there at this epic performance with Lightning and Thunder and Pearl Jam, that's
Isn't
fantastic.
that crazy? And that moment that you're
You
talking about
can't
where
make
he
that up. That's why this is Hollywood. Like truth is stranger than fiction sometimes.
isn't that crazy? And it's you're touching on all of the things. Like in the documentary, if you weren't there, it would be easy to watch that because there is a moment where Eddie kind of laughs and chuckles. And you're right. There's a moment where you could go, oh, is he poking fun? And I could speak to the fact that he wasn't at all because later he was actually talking about how he thought it was so great that they just started to take over the stage. Like you don't see, but if you watch the whole performance is on YouTube, you can see that full performance. And there's a point where Lightning takes off his vest, Claire takes off her vest, and they're just like into it. And you just see Eddie kind of like he's not laughing at them. He's like, oh, this is great. Like he had the whole like, I'm in it, even though like if you only see a clip, you could think he was kind of doing something in jest, and he wasn't at all. He was like, here you go. And there was even a moment where Mike Sardina hands Eddie his guitar too, like he's the stage like hand or something, It's
Frankly, to the guitar tech. Here, hold this.
yeah. He's like, here, I gotta go do
I
a
gotta get
show.
my
And
groove
he's like,
on.
all
Yeah.
right, I got you. And
That
he talked
is
about it backstage too. He's like, you guys were great. He said he loved how they took over.
that is cool.
Yeah.
At your Hollywood premiere screening in October, were any of the other performers there hanging out at the after party? Hugh Jackman, Kate Hudson, anybody
Yeah.
other than Jim Belushi?
Yeah, they were all there except for Hugh. He wasn't able to make the party, but Kate was there. Ella Anderson, I got to talk to who plays Rachel. We talked a bit, and oh my gosh, the guy who plays Jim
Fisher
Belushi's
Stevens.
best friend, Fisher Stevens. Thank
Yeah.
you. We spoke to him.
The
So he played
dentist.
my dad's best friend, who was Dr. David Watson, who was also my dentist. So
You don't have a lightning bolt on your tooth right now,
I
do you?
don't. If I got anything, I'd have him put a lightsaber for what I do for a living. I'm like, oh yeah,
That's a good call. I love that.
yeah, yeah. But I remember when he did that too. He was telling us like over the dinner table. He's like, yeah. He's like, I put a lightning bolt. I'm like, you did not. He's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, okay. And then for the movie to open that way, I'm like, of course.
There are a lot of nuggets to like in this movie. Was there any particular part of the movie that still stays with you now that as we anticipate seeing it released in the theaters on Christmas Day?
You know what? There is like one of my favorite moments in the movie. And this, I don't know if they actually did in real life, but there's a duet near the beginning of the movie that establishes their chemistry. I love how the whole scene is blocked. But I just thought that duet was absolutely beautiful. Like I can't wait to have the soundtrack so I can hear that version of that song. Like I mean, I don't want to reveal anything, but
That's a
it's just
great point about the soundtrack, though, because the other thing that I learned in my research, as I salute, is that Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson recorded everything before they filmed, and that was how they
Mhm.
really got their rapport and that authentic musical connection. And I think you're right, that duet really shows that not quite the level of Lady Gaga and Bradley
Right.
Cooper for Shallow, but
But
certainly
their
like
version
that.
of that.
Yeah, but that, yeah, exactly, that level of the musical journey building that bond of love.
Absolutely. And it took everyone in. So it, at a Hollywood premiere, I'll just say it like I've been to other Hollywood screenings. And sometimes it's a jaded audience. They're there like, hey, I'm gonna judge this and oh, I don't clap. They don't often get into it in the same way your general audience does. And after that duet, the whole place erupted into applause. And I wasn't, it's been a long time since like I hate to sound this way, but an industry audience reacted like that with such enthusiasm, just overtly. And I thought that was amazing because I felt it. I was like, hell yeah. But the whole place did. It was great.
And Beth, in comparison, at the Oriental Theater, where it was the friends and family screening in
Hmm.
the hometown, that didn't happen. There was some laughter. You heard some
Okay.
sniffles at some parts, but like I said, it was kind of reserved, like everybody was truly paying attention. But interesting that the jaded Hollywood audience
Yeah.
so bought in by that duet. I
Yeah.
love knowing that. All right, I will wrap up and we will visit again. I want to say one thing.
Okay.
I love I want to take you back to one thing that you mentioned about the script, and then I have a big question, and then we'll wrap up. The
Okay.
one thing I want to share with you about the script, where you're like Neil Diamond interpreter, Claire Sardina said that to me when I first met her. That makes me feel like the movie is real. I got the chance to talk to Rachel Cartwright, Claire's daughter, at the premiere. Lovely,
Hmm.
lovely person. And she was consulting a lot with Craig Brewer as he was screenwriting. And she mentioned to me that some of the lines that she suggested made it in the movie, and that
Oh,
she was just so thrilled, like that he listened to her and like, oh, okay. And what I was telling him really did work, and that he listened to my experience with Lightning and Thunder.
oh, that's amazing. And I'm happy for her because I mean, I knew her as I shouldn't say as well as Mike and Claire, but I knew her as well, meaning I knew her in addition. And her contribution cannot be overlooked also. Like, Claire was on set for I think a week or so, maybe more, but I know that Rachel had a different perspective on everything. You know what I mean? There's the perspective of the two who are on stage singing, but Rachel had a different bird's eye view, as we know, watching the movie. So
Yeah.
I love that she got to have input. I love that for her. And talking to Craig, it was really, really important to him that people in Milwaukee, people from like all walks of life could connect to this film because it's not just about somebody performing at a Neil Diamond level, but it's about families, it's about heart, it's about dreaming. And he's like, we all have that. And we have, you know, broken times in our homes, and they have that in the film. So he's like, all of this means something to human beings, and he just wanted people to connect to it. And I think Rachel's input probably helped make that happen. So that's
Natural,
amazing.
yeah, natural family drama. And she couldn't say enough about Hugh Jackman. I was with her at Cops when Hugh Jackman was serving frozen custard, and I got a chance to chat with her, but she said Hugh plays Papa, which is what she called Lightning, Mike Sardina. And she said he plays Papa so well. And I said, and she told me, I bet when Hugh comes out, he'll want to come and hug me. And sure enough, he lit up when he saw her, and they had a big hug right in front of me. I was actually happy to really capture that. But so
Oh,
to know that this filming really is a family affair and really was meaningful. And it isn't poking fun of Milwaukee. It is celebrating true love. It is celebrating dreaming. Like
it
P.T.
really
Barnum
is.
in The Greatest Showman, like P.T. Barnum, this is a different version of someone who had big dreams and went for it. So my last question for you. Oh, what were
Yes.
you say?
Oh, I was just going to connect the whole father thing again, and I got to tell Jim Belushi. He was like, I hope I made you, I hope I made you and your family proud." He's like, "I hope I did him well." And I turned to Jim and I just said, "You know what? I'm like, you brought him back to life for a few hours tonight." And he goes, "That is the best review I've ever had." So Rachel felt it with Hugh. We felt it with Jim Belushi. I mean, that should just be like the biggest like banner to go see this film is like we're all feeling the vibes.
Oh, that really is emotional. That's sweet. I was like, you almost made me cry. Like, stop that. But what a gift. What an absolute gift.
Yes. The whole film is because my dad was such a fan that I couldn't listen to Neil Diamond after he died. And this movie opened that door back up for me again. I can now get in the car and play it and smile and be happy. Like it almost was like emotional closure in some weird, wild, therapeutic way.
That's cool. So my last question for you,
Yes.
especially as the Hollywood industry professional, what's your vibe on Oscars nominations?
Ooh. Well,
Or
I
is
don't
this
know if
like
you know.
talking or is this like talking about a no-hitter in baseball? If you're like, I'm tapping out on that.
I can share my personal opinion, but I don't know if I'm in the Motion Picture Academy also. So I will have a little bit of a say if things go the way I want it to go. um, uh, I feel pretty strongly that things are going to be looking good for it as well. I think personally, I would love to see Kate get a nomination. I would love to see Hugh get a nomination, but I feel like this is Kate's and Claire's story in a lot of ways. Even though it's a huge Mike story as well, there's something about Claire's journey that Kate just captured, and she captured Milwaukee in all of it. Her accent is perfect. Her I don't know, I feel like she embodies Claire in a way that just warmed my heart. And to see her go through everything she goes through, I would love to see a nomination. I could see a screenwriting nomination too. So who knows? But I've got my fingers crossed for all of it. I'm definitely not the one to ask though, because I am completely biased. That was the thing. So many people are like, "What do you think of the movie?" I'm like, I can't tell you. I loved it, but I have a completely different perspective.
Yeah, my dad is in it. That's going to sway you for sure.
Exactly. They say, I want you to meet Tom D'Amato. I'm like, my sister and I just immediately started bawling when that happened in the movie. So I'm like, I have a different view of this movie.
And that's a funny scene too. So for you to
Yes,
be crying during a comedic scene is understandable,
exactly.
but yeah. Oh, well, I'm so glad that you got to feel all the feels with Song Sung Blue. Beth D'Amato, Hollywood industry professional
I
and
like the
daughter,
sound of
and daughter of Tom D'Amato, co-manager and enthusiast of Lightning and Thunder.